All right, folks, what is going on? This is episode 370 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller, and over here we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. More Georgia Southern talk because I was sitting back thinking, and I felt like I think our offensive line is something that needs to be talked about because we don't. Well, I'll say here, we don't talk much about the offensive line. Now, we talk about the running backs, the quarterbacks, the receivers, what the defense is going to do. We haven't talked much about the offensive line, so I want to, give myself a little bit of a, education on the offensive line and give a early evaluation of what we have in the trenches. So that's going to be really interesting, I feel, today to talk about because we don't give these guys much credit. The offensive line has done pretty well throughout the years, especially in the running game. I mean, we've been very, very successful running the ball at Georgia Southern, and it's pretty much thanks to these guys. If it wasn't for the guys up front, we really wouldn't be running for 3, in some cases 400 yards a game. But with this new coaching staff coming in and the new offensive line coach, you could ask the question: is it the weakness or one of the weakest link on our team? I'm not really sure if that's the case, but we're really going to look into it. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is, like I said, this is the First and Frame Rate Show. If you want to watch on YouTube and Rumble, the links are down in the description. If you're already watching on those platforms, I appreciate it. Also, if you want to listen at your leisure, I am on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. So you can listen at your leisure, subscribe to any of those avenues. And, whenever you get ready, you can listen to any of the episodes we have available. You can be your own program director. You can listen at any time you want to. Also, I want to thank everyone who's been coming through, watching and or listening to the show. You guys are great, and I cannot thank you guys enough. One thing before I get into this, like I said, we do talk about Atlanta Falcons football over here, and there's been reports that Desmond Ridder is picking up the offense for the Falcons. I'm kind of not surprised at that because I think Desmond Ridder is extremely intelligent and highly underrated as a quarterback. I think the Falcons probably got a first round pick in the third round with Desmond Ridder, but like I said, that's a whole nother story for another day. And we were going to get back into the Georgia Southern Eagles. All right, like I said, the Georgia Southern Eagles, the offensive line has always been one of the strongest points of the Eagles. It's always been one of the strongest points. One thing that is kind of like a hindrance to the offensive line that it's been a it's been a run blocking offensive line. Obviously, I mean, if you know anything about Georgia Southern, you know that we like to run the ball like crazy. Now with Coach Clay Helton's coming in, and Clay Helton is trying to throw the ball more, there's a lot of questions to try to say, like, all right, are these guys going to be able to transition to be more of a pass balance or a pass heavy team? Because a lot of the guys, especially like Langmeyer and Miller, which are pretty much the veterans on the offensive line, we have others, but those two guys, in my opinion, stick out. Are they going to be the guys that are actually going to be able to transition and help the other guys transition over to, being more of a pass blocking offensive line, have more pass blocking schemes? It's something to think about. Because, like I said, years and years, and these guys have been on the team for a few years. That's pretty much what we've been doing. I think we're going to be okay for the most part. I don't think it's going to be an issue to where we're going to have like an abysmal offensive line. Will we have some growing pains? Maybe. But it's yet to be seen. When you have a guy like Logan Langmeyer, and a guy who came from Jacksonville State before their program went down, he transferred up to Georgia Southern. And immediately when I knew he transferred to Georgia Southern, I knew he was going to have somebody special. I know he was going to have somebody pretty good. So I'm going to spotlight Langmeyer, and I'm going to give a little bit of love to Brian Miller. We're going to also talk about the coach, the offensive line coach as well. So when he came up to Georgia Southern, played all 13 games in 2020 and 2021, he started as well. So I thought that was pretty neat that you transfer from one place to another and start right away. Done a pretty good job of doing that. And also in 2022, he started in all 12 games. So he has a lot of experience at the center position. When you have an offensive line, the center, a lot of people talk about the left and right tackles or whatever the case may be, but the center makes that offensive line go. And with all that experience, and not only just at Georgia Southern playing 25 games, playing 25 games and starting in all of them, he's also played at Jackson State, played at Jackson State as a freshman at right tackle, also played tackle as well in that 2019 at Jackson State. So he's have a lot of experience, and for him to come back and play with us for this upcoming year is very vital to what we're trying to do. So I don't think that it's going to be that big of an issue. Yes, it's going to be somewhat of a transition, but when you have a guy like this who can, who's played various positions on the offensive line and pretty much being the staple and the anchor at center for Georgia Southern, I think we're going to be starting off in pretty good hands when we are having a guy with leadership like that and with experience. Now, we're going to talk about Brian Miller as well. Brian Miller came in from Memorial Day High School in Savannah, Georgia. I haven't known much about him, but I've been following a little bit of his career because I am from Savannah, Georgia. So I've been watching, a little bit what they've been doing down there, and end up starting all 13 games at the red shirt in 2017, 2018. So he was a part of the growing pains when we had that turnaround season. So he started all 13 games at right tackle in 2018, 2019. Had a non-contact injury in 2019, missed the entire season. So came back in 2020, played in 12 games, he started 6. And in 2021, 2022, he ended up starting all 12 games. So he bounced back from an injury. And when you look at it, it's basically looking at a kid who literally went through growing pains. Not only that he went through growing pains injury-wise, he was a part of that team. I don't know what it was. He was a part of that team that went through the losing years and ended up bouncing back from a 2-10 season to a 10-3 season. So that is something that is really interesting. And also, when he was redshirted back in 2017, he did play defensive end and moved the offensive line. So he's been through a handful of changes. Had a season-ending injury, came right back. 2020 started 6 games, played in 12 games, had over 460 snaps. Also played a little bit on special teams. Then he turned right around in 2020, started all 12 games, also played over 700 total snaps. And out of those 730 snaps, he played 43 on special teams. So these two guys have a lot of experience. In 2020, he was all Sun Belt Conference second team. So he knows how to play the position. So these two guys right here, like I said, they're going to be the veterans. They're going to be the staple of this team for the most part. So I'm going to be really excited to see what these guys can continue to do when it comes to continuing to play at a high level, especially with the new coach coming in. You have guys like a Richard Owens who's coming in. He's going to be the coach of the offensive line and run game coordinator. Now, does this mean that it's not going to be anything doing with passing? I mean, he's offensive line coach. So he's going to be doing something with, helping guys pass protect or whatever the case may be. But he's also the run game coordinator. So him and Coach Merritt is pretty much going to be working together. The running backs coach. It's going to be working together to get guys like Jalen White and the other guys at running back to be successful. But you have to understand, Merritt and Owens, these two coaches are going to have to work together to actually make this offense go. Because no matter what, people can say about Kyle Van Treese and Richie Langford and the new quarterback that just was recruited recently, I just did a video on. All the other quarterbacks, they do nothing without the trenches. They do nothing without these guys blocking and pushing guys around and beating guys up on the offensive line. The quarterbacks and running backs do nothing. So these guys are going to be working hand in hand. These running backs do nothing if these guys can't get space for these guys to run the football through. So these guys do nothing without Coach Owens and Coach Merritt. With that being said, let's talk about Richard Owens a little bit. Coach Owens came from UAB. One thing about that is UAB has done a pretty good job at offensive line. In 2020, he helped the Blazers get to the West Division title and his second Conference USA championship in 3-year span. The Blazers offensive line had a tremendous season led by first team all-conference selections, Sidney Wells and Ragland. So he knows how to coach offensive linemen. You don't sit there and bring guys that have all conference selections and, like I said, guys are going through, guys are going and winning West Division titles, in some cases winning the championship without having success in the trenches. Despite having 9 different starting lineups in 2020, 2021? 2020? I think it was 2020. Despite having 9 different lineups throughout the season due to injury, the Blazers only gave up 25 sacks the entire year. And he also ran for 150 yards. Now that's amazing. If you go through 9 different starters and only give up that much as far as sacks and actually average over 150 yards, I think we're going to be in pretty good hands. Not only that, the average in 2021, they averaged over 386 yards per game, 180 rushing, 206 passing, which I think that is a pretty good reflection of a balanced offense. But I think with this team right here, I think the passing game is going to be way more than that. I don't think we're going to be averaging just 200 yards passing. We also got, he also ended with 43 offensive touchdowns. And this is going to be really interesting, to see what his philosophy is going to be able to do, implement it with a team like this, who, and by all means, may not have the better talent as UAB. I think UAB probably had a better offensive line, but I think with the experience of Miller and Langmeyer, I think we're still going to be able to do some good things in the Sun Belt with this coach. In some cases, I think we'll probably be more productive and more successful, because when you have other guys, not only just these two, because, the offensive line consists of 5 people and they're rotated around. When you have other people that are coming in and to actually be contributing, like a Caleb Kelly, who's also in his 6th year. You also have Aaron Pyron, Rashid Miller, Jubron, Caleb Williams, the redshirt sophomore, Seabrons the 4th, Nate Lewis. Nate Lewis is a freshman coming in. And the other guys that are freshmen coming in, Chandler Strong. You also have, what's his name? I just looked at his name and I just passed it. I'm going to find it. Give me 1 second. I'm looking right here. I think it's Pashawn. I think that's his name. Anyway, I'll find it. You have guys coming in that are ready to go. Now, I want to apologize for the delay. But you have guys that are ready to go and going to be successful at playing, Pashawn Wimley. I mean, you got guys that are Corbett McGregor. You got guys coming in that are going to be ready to go, in my opinion, that's going to, be able to contribute right away. I feel like a lot of these guys are going to be rotated in and out. I don't think, the actual 5 are going to continue to play every snap in every game. So there's going to be a situation, in my opinion, I feel personally, you're going to see some of these young guys come in and get some play. You're going to see some guys come in and get play. I do see a guy like Nate Lewis is going to be playing a little bit. You're going to see Pashawn Wimley, 6'3", 315 pounds. You don't want to put too much on these guys, but I can see guys like that coming into play. I don't know what the starting 5 is that's going to be offensive line. I do believe that Langmeyer Miller is going to be there, and in some cases you may have you may have Caleb Kelly coming in to play. Also, you have a Kalen Williams at 6'7", 305 pounds, redshirt sophomore coming in from Dublin. We're going to have guys here that's going to be, you're going to have guys here that's going to be able to push some guys around. And on top of that, before I leave, before I get out of here, I want to say this. With the receivers that we have and the quarterback that we have, even though these guys may not have to, hold blocks as fast as as much as we think they do. Calvin and Treese and the receivers, they're fast and they can get open. Quick passes help a lot when it comes to an offensive line. Getting the ball out early, quick slant routes, quick curls and drags and screens. I look at guys like Derwin Burgess, one of the guys, Amari Jones, that can stretch the field, and those are going to be the guys that we may need to get downfield pretty fast to throw the ball over the top. But when you have guys like Sam Kinderson, Jeremy Singleton, and even with the tight ends that we have, those are the guys that could probably get the ball really early as soon as the ball is snapped. So this don't have to be a situation where these guys, the pass blocking has to be a priority where they're going to have to hold the ball. Hold their blocks for a long period of time just to find somebody open. Because we talked about the receivers before. I think we have a very underrated receiving group. I think we have a very underrated group. And I think it showed in the spring game how well these guys could be, even though the spring game is kind of leaned towards the offense. But I feel that we're going to have a situation where this offensive line may not have to do so much, and with the running game, I don't even really want to talk about the running game today. We're going to be running the ball pretty, we're going to be successful running the ball. We always are. I can't remember a time where Georgia Southern was not able to run the ball, in any form or fashion. I'm not really sure. I can't remember a time where Georgia Southern was ever held under 100 yards total in rushing. Maybe you guys will figure out better than I can. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think that with this coach, with this offensive line, and the way that we can distribute the ball, I think we're going to be okay. Shout out to all the guys that are on the offensive line. You guys do the dirty work, and you guys do a really good job at it. One thing I will say throughout the season last year, I don't think the offensive line was necessarily a low point for the team, even though we went 3-9. I think the offensive line did okay. If anything, I think just play calling killed us more than anything. But that's another story for another day. That I hope that they don't have to come back again, because I think play calling is going to be pretty good for the Georgia Southern Eagles. I think that's going to be it for today. I think that's going to be it for this episode. If you like this content, if you like this podcast, hit the like button, share this content, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, subscribe to any of the podcast avenues that you would, think that works out for you. I recommend, subscribing to more than one, because there's some times where one avenue may go down. Like I had an instance a while back where the YouTube avenue was not working properly, but the podcast avenue worked well. So if you cannot find the show, or something happens that the show does not show up on YouTube or whatever, or Rumble, the podcast avenue should be available, and vice versa. So hopefully you guys will continue to watch. Hopefully you guys will continue to support. Episode 370. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow. We're talking about more Georgia Southern or Atlanta Falcons football. I thank you guys a lot. Thank you guys. We are growing. We are moving right along in the subscriber count and everything else under that umbrella. All right, y'all. Y'all guys take it easy. You guys be blessed. Peace.